Hello there. Today we are cracking open the code behind one of the most powerful platforms on Earth. We're going to pull back the curtain on the science of YouTube automation, looking at everything from the algorithm that decides what you see next, all the way to the AI that's now, well, creating what you watch.
Welcome to CurioFlux.
You know the feeling, right? We have all been there. You hop on YouTube to watch one quick video, maybe how to change a tire, and then suddenly you snap out of it, it's 2 a.m., and you somehow know everything there is to know about the history of deep-sea exploration. Look, that's not an accident. That whole experience, that time-warping rabbit hole, it's a product of some seriously clever design. And today, we're going to figure out how it works.
All right, so think of this as a behind-the-scenes tour. First, we'll look at the engine itself, the engagement machine. Then, we'll talk about how we kind of lose control. We'll go down that infamous rabbit hole, crack the creator's code, see what happens when the machine itself starts creating, and finally, we'll ask the big one. Who's really in the driver's seat here?
Okay, first stop, the engagement machine. This is the absolute heart of YouTube. It's this incredibly complex system of algorithms, and its prime directive, its one and only goal, is to figure out how to keep your eyes glued to the screen.
Let's kick this off with a number, 70%. Just let that sit there for a second. What on earth could that be referring to?
That's right. That's 70%. That's how much of what you watch on YouTube is being served up to you by the recommendation algorithm. It's not what you searched for, it's what the machine thinks you should watch next. It means your journey through the platform isn't entirely your own. It's being guided. See, the main goal isn't to teach you something new. It's just to keep you on the platform for as long as humanly possible. So, if this massive machine is built from the ground up to hold your attention, what does that do to our own sense of control? I mean, are you really choosing that next video? Or are you just being nudged?
You know, researchers who study this stuff actually have a name for it. They call them attention capture dark patterns. Just think about features like autoplay, where the next video just starts without you doing anything. Or that endless, bottomless feed of recommendations you can scroll through forever. These aren't just for your convenience. They are specifically engineered to bypass your decision to stop watching. And studies show that, well, we're not great at resisting them, which often leads to that feeling of, man, I just wasted so much time.
And this right here, this really highlights the fundamental conflict at play. You go in with a simple goal, learn a new skill, watch one specific video, but the platform has its own, singular goal, maximize your watch time. It's this constant tug of war for your attention, and that misalignment, well, that's what powers the whole rabbit hole effect. Now, this battle for your attention, it leads us to the most controversial part of the machine. It's the claim that in its nonstop search for engagement, the algorithm can accidentally, or maybe not so accidentally, push people towards more and more extreme content. I mean, that is a heavy accusation from sociologist Zeynep Tufekci. The basic idea is that to keep you clicking, the algorithm might learn that more shocking, more conspiratorial, or just more divisive stuff is way more engaging. But is that really happening? I mean, how would you even test that? Well, scientists got pretty clever. So, how do you audit a black box algorithm that nobody can really see inside of? You send in some spies. Researchers created hundreds of brand new accounts, sock puppets, and then trained them by having them watch videos from specific political viewpoints. Then, they just sat back and watched. Where did the recommendations go from there? Did they drift further and further to the fringes? The results from these studies were pretty clear, showing that the algorithm often did, in fact, steer users toward increasingly extreme content.
But the algorithm isn't the only automated piece of this puzzle. The creators themselves have become total masters of gaming the system. They've learned how to reverse engineer the machine. They figured out how to speak the algorithm's language, not just with their videos, but with the very words they choose.
Yep, you heard that right. A video's title is like a piece of code you feed directly into the engagement machine. And using AI, researchers analyzed thousands upon thousands of titles, breaking them down to see which words, which phrases, which linguistic patterns lead to certain behaviors. It's not just guesswork, it is a full-blown science.
And the results are absolutely fascinating. It turns out different words literally make you do different things. The data shows that if you want likes, you should use bigger words and inclusive pronouns like we or us. But if you want to get people talking in the comments, you're actually better off using social words like family, divisive pronouns like they, and language that taps into anger or sadness. It's incredible. Creators aren't just making art, they're engineering language. Okay, so we've seen how the machine recommends things, and we've seen how humans have learned to talk to it. But the next stage of automation, it's already here. And this is where things get really weird, where the line completely blurs and the machine stops just suggesting content and starts creating it.
This quote from a comedian and father really hits home. He discovered his toddler watching what looked like a video based on a favorite kid's book, but it was AI generated. And the AI voice was mispronouncing really simple words, turning what should be an educational moment into, well, miseducation. And these kinds of videos are flooding platforms like YouTube Kids, often with bizarre visuals, scripts that make no sense, and sometimes content that's just plain wrong or inappropriate.
So, how good are these AI-made videos really? An experiment put them head-to-head with human-made ones, and sure enough, people like the human videos more overall, especially the visuals. But here's the kicker, the big surprise. When it came to things like perceived accuracy or how informative the video was, there was no real difference. The machine is already competitive when it comes to the substance, it's just a little clumsy with the style.
And that brings us to the really crucial finding. The biggest weakness of these purely AI videos is their clunkiness, especially in matching the right images to the words. But when a human editor just jumped in for a quick cleanup, swapping out a few awkward pictures, almost all of those negative feelings from the audience, poof, they disappeared. It seems, for now at least, the magic combination is machine-level efficiency with a final guiding human touch.
All of this, the recommendations, the dark patterns, the AI creators, it all leads us to one final and honestly critical question. We've seen how the machine works, but who, at the end of the day, is responsible for what it does?
This whole thing opens up a giant can of ethical worms. I mean, who's accountable when an AI recommendation causes real-world harm? How can we trust a black box algorithm when even its own creators can't fully explain its choices? And how do we stop these systems from just taking our own worst biases and amplifying them across the globe, especially when so few companies hold all the power?
This leads to what ethicists are calling the responsibility gap. See, with a simple tool like a hammer, it's pretty easy to know who's to blame when something goes wrong. But when you have a system that learns, that evolves, and makes decisions all on its own in ways its original programmers never even imagined, who's at fault then? It's genuinely one of the biggest legal and ethical challenges of our time.
And so, in the end, we're left with this thought. We have built this incredible machine that is constantly and relentlessly learning how to capture our attention. It is a powerful, ever-evolving force shaping our culture. So the question we really have to ask ourselves is, as it gets smarter about us, are we getting any smarter about it? Are we learning how to watch it back? Thanks for joining me.